Motherland Tales, from its timeless traditional African folklore heritage, presents Ovuma the Tyrant. Once upon a time, in the heart of a verdant African landscape, lay a cluster of villages. These villages, each with its own unique traditions and ways of life, had lived in harmony for generations. However, a shadow had recently fallen over them, casting a pall of fear and despair. This shadow was Ovuma, a ruthless tyrant whose name struck terror into the hearts of all who heard it. Ovuma was a man of imposing stature, with a cold, steely gaze that could make even the bravest warriors quiver. He dethroned the king of Odo, his village, and assumed leadership. He intimidated all kings in the surrounding villages and dealt with them with an iron fist. The bravest of kings dared not challenge him, as the consequences are always severe. With a band of loyal, fierce men, he would storm into neighboring villages, looting their goods and taking whatever he pleased. He was insatiable. His thirst for wealth and control knew no bounds. He forcefully acquired lands belonging to the villagers with no opposition. As if taking people's land was not enough, he forcefully took people's wives from his village and different villages. He even took the beautiful wives of kings from other villages. The young maidens from different families he took and lodged in his various huts, which were guarded by his men. He kept them as he wished, for days, and once satisfied, would send them away. Every village dreaded his visits, for they knew that their young men would be taken to toil in Ovuma's farmlands, often for months on end, before he decides to release them. Families were left without their husbands, sons, brothers, and wives, struggling to survive without their help. His men would also seize livestock like goats, cows, and birds, leaving families impoverished. When he craved palm wine, he would force the best tappers from all the surrounding villages to provide it at his command, and the tappers would tap for days till they lose their strength. When his appetite for fish is kindled, all fishermen in his village and the neighboring villages will swarm the river like bees, just to satiate his never-ending appetite, while those that sold fish in the market will lose their wares as his men will confiscate their fishes. On harvest period, each farmer from his village and neighboring villages will submit their harvest for him to choose the best yield, before the farmers will access their harvest. Those who attempted to hide some of their harvest paid with their lives, while some fortunate ones remained in perpetual slavery in his farmland. Market day was a significant event in these villages. People would gather to sell their goods, exchange news, and socialize. It was supposed to be a time of joy and prosperity, but Ovuma had turned it into a nightmare. His men would lie in wait along the pathways to the market, intercepting the villagers' goods, intimidating them, and taking whatever caught their eye. One bright morning, as the villagers from one of the villages prepared to head to the market, an air of trepidation hung over them. They knew that Ovuma's men would be lurking. Despite their fears, they needed to trade their wares to survive. As expected, Ovuma and his band ambushed them, taking their goods and leaving them empty-handed. Ovuma laughed as he and his men went away, the villagers' cries resounding in his ears. He felt invincible, a king in his own right. However, unbeknownst to him, a spark of rebellion was beginning to ignite in one of the villages he had oppressed. In the village of Ogama, two brothers known as Awamba and Aku had had enough of Ovuma's tyranny. They were brave and strong, known for their cunning and courage. Their father, a respected elder, had been taken by Ovuma's men years ago and had never returned. The loss had left a deep scar, fueling their desire for revenge and justice. Awamba and Aku gathered the trusted and brave young men of Ogama and shared their plan. They would train in secret, honing their skills and are preparing to face Ovuma. They would unite the neighboring villages, convincing those they trust that together they could overthrow and defeat the tyrant. It was a dangerous plan, but desperation had made them fearless. For months, the brothers and their comrades trained in the forests, perfecting their combat techniques and devising strategies. They also traveled to neighboring villages, spreading their message of hope and resistance, though with extreme caution. Slowly but surely, they garnered support, the villagers' resentment against Ovuma turning into a burning desire for freedom. The young men who had once slaved in Ovuma's farmlands brought ideas on the way he operated with his men and all the strategies they deployed in attacking villages. They rolled this information into their own strategy, preparatory to their quest, which is to demystify Ovuma. The day of reckoning arrived. The villagers had chosen the small village of Ogama as the battleground. Ogama Village Pathway happens to be the first pathway Ovuma and his men take before they traverse other villages. It was a strategic location, with narrow paths that could be easily exploited to attack and defeat him. Awamba and Aku, along with their allies, lay in wait, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As predicted, Ovuma and his men stormed into Ogama village through its pathway, confident and arrogant as always. This time, they were met with unusual and disturbing silence, the village seemingly deserted. With a sneer playing on Ovuma's lips, he muttered "cowards" and motioned to his men to spread out and search for hidden villagers. At that moment, Awamba and Aku gave the signal. The villagers, armed with spears, bows, and crude weapons, sprang from their hiding places. The narrow paths of Ogama worked to their advantage, forcing Ovuma's men into close combat where their numbers meant less. Awamba and Aku led the charge, their movements swift and lethal. The battle was fierce. Ovuma's men, though well-trained, were caught off guard by the villagers' ferocity and determination. Awamba and Aku fought with the strength and skill born from months of preparation and years of pent-up anger. Their movements were fluid and precise, cutting through Ovuma's ranks with relentless efficiency. The villagers fought with a fierceness born of desperation and hope. They wielded makeshift weapons, bows, arrows, spears, and clubs. They used every ounce of their strength to strike powerful blows, sending the tyrant's men crashing to the ground. Ovuma, seeing his men falter, entered the fray. He was a formidable warrior. His presence alone was enough to sow fear. But Awamba and Aku were undeterred. They fought with the strength of 1,000 men, their resolve unwavering. In the chaos, Awamba and other villagers managed to engage Ovuma directly. They clashed, a brutal and intense duel. Despite his strength, Ovuma began to tire. Awamba's youth and determination and the combined strength of the villagers on Ovuma gave him the edge, and with a final powerful blow, a spear thrown by one of the villagers landed on Ovuma's arm and disarmed him. The villagers seized the opportunity, tackling Ovuma to the ground and binding him with ropes. With Ovuma captured, his men lost their will to fight. Those that survived fled the scene, and few surrendered, and the villagers erupted in triumphant cheers. Awamba and Aku stood over the bound tyrant, their faces grim but victorious. They had done the impossible. They had defeated Ovuma and liberated their people from his oppressive control and rule. The news of Ovuma's defeat spread quickly, and soon the other villages began to rise up against the remaining pockets of his loyalists. United, they drove out the remnants of his cohorts, reclaiming their freedom and their lands. The young men who had been forced to work in Ovuma's fields were freed and returned home to their families. The elders from various villages held a meeting to decide the fate of Ovuma and his captured men. They debated long and hard, weighing the need for justice against the desire for mercy. In the end, they chose to disgrace him and his men in the marketplaces in various villages, after which he was stoned alongside his men and were banished from his and the entire neighboring villages. They were banished through the pathway of the evil forest and left to wander to unknown land and never returned again. Awamba and Aku were hailed as heroes, their bravery and leadership celebrated by all. They, however, remained humble, knowing that their victory had been a collective effort. In the following months, the villages flourished. The markets once again bustled with activity, free from the fear of Ovuma's raids. The young men, now free, contributed to the prosperity of their communities, and the scars left by Ovuma's tyranny began to heal. This story from Motherland Tales shows that even the darkest of times could be overcome with courage and unity. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment to our channel so that whenever we post a new video, you will be the first to be notified.